Hello, and welcome back to the D.FINED Engagement BookCast. My name is D.FINED. Today we'll be meeting with author Trish Tagle, and she wrote a very provocative book called Everyone Knows You Suck: Bad Boss Stories, a Succinct Guide. Today we'll be talking about the first of 4 pillars in the book, and that would be truth. Trish Tagle, I'm so grateful that you agreed to join me here for the D.FINED Engagement BookCast. Hello everybody, how are you today? My name is D.FINED and I'm in Augusta, Georgia with Trish Tagle. Hello Trish.
Hi, how are you, Doug?
Good. And you're in New Rochelle, New York?
No, Westchester County.
Westchester County.
New Rochelle is in Westchester.
Okay.
We'll leave it at Westchester.
Do you have a town in Westchester that you live in? What town is that?
Ardsley.
Okay. And Trish, we are here today to talk about your book, Everyone Knows You Suck: Bad Boss Stories, a Succinct Guide.
Yes.
Everyone knows you suck. And gosh, this is a really great book, and my purpose here is to let people know that they have this available to them, and any type of leader could benefit from this book.
Thank you.
It could be a new leader, it could be in mid-career, or somebody that's a top executive, and maybe they've sucked their whole career, and they get this book and they go, uh-oh, maybe I can, the last 3 years of my career, I could be a better boss. But Everyone Knows You Suck is Trish Tagle's book, and we're going to go through it a little bit, chapter by chapter, and you have subtopics under each chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't mind, the first question I have for you is, why did you write your book? And tell us a little bit about your experience that had you thinking, I need to write a book about bad bosses.
Okay, so just a little bit about me. I came through the fashion industry and then moved into digital development, digital advertising, digital technology. So it's more or less in the advertising world. And rose through the ranks on my own merit.
Sure.
As you learned in the book.
There are those that don't. There are those that don't rise to the ranks by their own merit.
Exactly. And like I said, since you read the book, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I wrote the book is because I have encountered really good bosses, but you don't really, there are a lot more bad ones. Let's put it that way.
I agree.
And it's better to learn from other people's mistakes, I think. And I think it's also more memorable when I hate to say this, but people like gossip. So it's sort of like, this is the gossip and this is what you need to learn from it.
Uh-huh.
That was a catch. And the reason why I wrote it is, one, there were all these stories that I had heard, and I had experienced as well, and I knew how to correct it, and I figured, why not?
Mm-hmm.
And I also do speaking, so I use the book as a background for my speaking.
Wonderful.
And and then I get to sell my book. If somebody wants to buy it, I get to sell it after I speak. So There you go.
Yeah. Tell me about not just your speaking work, but tell me about other work that you do right now. I understand you have a consultant.
Mm-hmm.
You're a consultant to businesses, and you help them wade through all the nonsense and get to the nut of things, and you help them. And I want to hear a little bit about that. Tell me what you call your company. What is your value proposition for the company that you have?
Okay, so you can find me at trishtagly.com, so that's easy. And what I do is I have a one-day summit where I apply my framework called SEAS, but it's spelled SIEZE.
Mm-hmm.
For Summit for Internal Efficiency and Zipped Up Evolution. Ta-da! And it takes place in a day.
Uh-huh.
So I speak to the stakeholders all together, so from the different disciplines in their office, whatever they call them now, because there's all these different names. But if we're going to be traditional, HR, marketing, management, finance, operations, they all have to be in the meeting, all the heads of those departments.
Sure.
And they have to be ready with answers to questions. So they have to know what they want that they're not getting, what other cooperation they need. And the one thing that I do set them up with is that you can't sit in a seat if you don't have an answer, if you're not going to participate. And if you don't want your department to be represented, which that's not a good thing,
Right.
okay, then okay, don't participate, but don't attend.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do is I save people time, because a lot of consultants, they take 30, 60, 90 days, mostly 90, because they have to interview everybody and this and that. But what I do is I drill down in one day and I get them to their action plan. So they can hire me just for the one day, or they can hire me, as an accountability partner to make sure that the action plan is acted upon. And I do have a quantitative formula that I apply to the actions that we have come up with, so they know which is the first, second, third, and fourth that they need to work on. So it makes it very objective, as
Yes.
opposed to subjective. And there's no no, you need to do this, you need to do that first. No. There's a formula. This is what you need to do in this order. Done. No arguments. And yeah, so I run it the way the book is written.
Okay. Yes.
Very straight to the point.
Very true. That's. I'm glad you got us back to the book, but that sounds like really interesting work. It sounds like you bring a lot of value to your clients, and without this like ongoing, what's the consultant going to tell us next? It's like,
Yes.
I think you derive answers from them.
Yes.
They're closest to the work, and then you kind of help them organize how to tackle it. So that's terrific.
Yeah.
I would love to be a fly on the wall when you do your work, honestly. But maybe one
Yeah.
day. Maybe
Yeah,
one day.
maybe one day. A
So again,
taskmaster.
we're talking about Trish Tagle's book. Everyone Knows You Suck. Bad Boss Stories. A succinct guide. Trish, let me explain to the listeners here. You organize your book under kind of like 4 different themes.
Pillars, yeah.
Yeah, pillars. Okay, and the pillars are truth, teach, think, and trust. And within those pillars, there's a few there are distinct things that you're covering or talking about within those pillars. So that's cool. The other thing is you actually are quoting somebody. Let's just say you're quoting somebody about an experience they had with their boss. And that's the story. You give them a name. So Judy or John, they tell a story about what they experienced from the boss. And then under each story, you say, well, this is the mistake the boss is making. And then how can the boss adjust? So you're not just calling out all these problems of what managers do or supervisors do. Yes, you're doing that, but then you're giving advice to that person that has the issue. And by the way, whoever's reading the book is going to learn probably what they can avoid and what they need to start doing. And I think you and I are very, very close in the way we think about leadership, how it needs to be. So that's again why I wanted to talk to you, because it's good stuff. So you want to start with the first pillar, which is truth.
Okay.
Truth. The very first thing you talk about is fairness, and you say it's very fair. It's very human to have favorites. Humans pick people that are like them, or they resonate with each other. And,
yes.
But in a work setting between bosses and subordinates or a team member, where does fairness come in that? Where does
Situation.
favoritism come in that dynamic between a boss and their employees or their team members?
Well, okay. So I'm going to go back over what you said. And
Sure.
as humans, I mean, there's a tendency to favor someone that you resonate with, like as you just said. And there's nothing wrong with that because it's just part of who we are. You might have pets and you like this one pet more than the other, okay? Or so bringing it back to the workplace, there's somebody that reports to you that you just might have a little bit more in common with or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you need to be able to compartmentalize that feeling of favoritism, okay? Where you're not giving them more days off, you're not giving them a bonus on the side where everybody else isn't getting one, you're not favoring them for the plum accounts, the plum assignments, you're spreading that across the team. You always have to remember that you're responsible, unless there's only one person reporting to you, okay, that you're responsible for more than just one career,
Mm-hmm.
okay, one person's learning. And in that sense, like I said, you can have a favorite, but be very careful about how you approach that favorite, okay? And I think there's something that you said here that I kind of said in the book, but you said it more nice. You said it prettier than I did. Leading objectively builds trust. Leading subjectively builds resentment.
I was just copying what's in the book, but you're right. Talk about that a little bit. Leading subjectively,
Yeah.
it causes problems. It builds resentments. But if you lead, with favorites, leading subjectively
Object.
builds resentment. Leading objectively builds trust. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was right from your book. So talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so again, it goes back to favorites. You have to be objective. Okay, so this person got to go on, let's say, a TV shoot,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
okay, one time. They're not always going to get to go on a TV shoot. You're going to move it around. Not to say that TV shoots are easy, believe me, they're not.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to move the experience around so everybody gets to have that experience. Not only, there isn't just one person who gets to learn all about it, and then the other people are kind of like, well, I kind of wanted to do that.
Sure.
I worked on a well-known European auto brand.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this one person who always did the shoots, and I didn't like that. I said, let's spread it around so the other people could learn the skills
Yes.
that this one person had. And he was like, don't take it away from me because this is what I love.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad you love it, but I'm not here for you. I'm here for everybody. And like I said, I want everybody to have the skill set that you have because if you think of the company as a whole, all right, if this person leaves, he takes all the knowledge with him,
Right.
right?
Right.
So in that case, if you're playing favorites and giving all this one person the experiences and the knowledge, that doesn't mean they're going to be loyal to you. They might love the fact that they're your favorite, but in the end, what does the company get out of it?
Yeah.
See,
Excellent.
so
Yeah.
there's again, I think I brought another dynamic into this where you not only think of your team, but you also think of the company.
Yeah.
What does the company have to gain? What will the company gain by you favoring somebody?
Right. Right. Yeah, and spreading around the good stuff,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
great. You don't give one person the menial stuff or the kind of
yeah,
like we'll call it shit jobs.
yeah,
You actually are sharing the burden and sharing the benefits of you for your work team. And
yeah, exactly.
I'm just cutting it cut to the chase. You obviously believe that developing your people
Yes,
is really, really important.
yes,
Not just because almost, if they're going to
yeah,
work at your company and you give them developmental opportunities,
mm-hmm.
that's going to help increase your retention of people and increase the capabilities of your team. There's just so much good stuff that you
Yeah.
can do for a team if you don't have these objective favorites that just get everybody upset and resentful of you as a boss. And by the way, they resent the coworker that's the favorite too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, everybody will have different experiences based on the account, and you
Mm-hmm.
can't help that. And sometimes that opportunity doesn't come up again. But if it did come up again, you give it to somebody else. You let
Right,
someone else learn.
right, right.
Another way around that too, if you
Sure,
don't mind me expounding a little bit,
please.
is, and I don't know if we cover it in any other part, but the other way too is when I was in corporate, what I would do is have these monthly meetings
Hmm.
because everybody loves meetings.
Don't we though?
Yeah, but at least it was productive in the sense that I identified somebody on the team that had a special skill
Hmm.
or was working on a
Hmm.
special project. And it was their responsibility to present, to
Hmm.
put a presentation together and share with the team what they'd learned or what they know about
Hmm.
a specific
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
So they became the subject matter expert. Okay? In that sense, now there is a resource for the team to go to and ask. So it's not like hiding this person's talent,
Yeah.
it's letting them shine, okay, by sharing the knowledge. And then the other team members will be like, oh, I have a question on this particular thing. Let me, um, let me talk to that person. So,
They're learning about what each other does too, because maybe they're
yes,
not. So
familiar,
it's
yeah.
yeah. Let me ask you this: how long did you let them go in those meetings of yours? How long did you let that subject matter expert share in minutes? Was it 15 minutes or
So we would, of course, everybody walks into the meeting, sits down. So they had about 35 minutes to
okay?
share, and then there was question and answer,
Mm-hmm.
and then general question and answer about any projects that we needed, to speak about, and then, okay. So it wasn't so tedious
Sure.
because everybody else, especially in advertising is very hectic in
Mm-hmm.
general.
Go, go, go,
So
huh?
yes, exactly. So there's a lot of like I said, people have a lot of meetings, so you don't want it to become boring. You want it to be quick, you want it to be interesting, and then you want to let them go when the interest is starting to like
Wonderful,
dim.
wonderful. I would have liked to work for you, Trish. You would have pushed me very hard, but you just sounds like you are. You're a good leader, and you model those things. So that's awesome. Hey, I'm going to move on to the second little
Sure.
sub area under truth. Again,
Okay.
our chapter, if you will, or pillar is truth. The second one is a boss saying, "I don't know." Um, you actually talk about the Peter principle that there comes a time if you're doing well in your career, you will be promoted up to your basic level of incompetence. That's just the way the world works. I think the Peter principle is empirically true. That's what happens to leaders. You get to the point where, boy, why'd they give me this job? Because I'm in totally over my head. So
Yes.
assuming that every leader is over their head in certain sense, um, you talk about it's good, it's okay for a leader to say, I don't know. So managers and supervisors have to know the work or they have to learn it and they have to do that quick. So tell me a little bit about this saying, I don't know. Doesn't that sort of erode the credibility of a manager if they're saying, I don't know?
I think it actually gives them more.
Tell me about that.
Because, okay, first of all, if you have people, and remember, I worked in the tech world,
Hmm.
okay? So if you have someone who's a developer and they're speaking code and you've never been a developer, I wanted to go into that world. I didn't for a reason. Um, they're gonna know that you don't know what the heck they're talking about when they say because they can start talking fast so just just stop pretending.
Yeah.
Because people know when you don't know, because you'll just sit there smiling, or they'll say something that's wrong and it'll go over your head, and they'll be like, ha, ha.
Yeah.
Right?
And if
And
you're
the
pretending,
Yep.
you're just digging yourself into a hole if you're pretending you know when you're ignorant, and you just end up just uh, putting your ignorance out there for everybody to witness. Unless you
Well,
say, "I don't
yeah.
know, help me understand."
Exactly. And the other reason why I say I don't know is because if you are part of the team that scopes out the work, okay, so you're the one
Yes.
talking to the client, you're pitching, and they say we want this, this, this. If you have not had the conversation, the I don't know conversation with your team, okay, and you're saying, oh, we can do that in 8 hours, and it
Hmm.
actually takes 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
First of all, you're not going to get paid right. And secondly, you're going to kill people. They're going to quit, and
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to be in worse trouble.
Right.
So, the best thing is to admit what you don't know, talk to the people, and like I said, a lot of people are willing to share their knowledge. There's not one person that I have worked with, or anybody else for that matter, that applies this type of attitude, where they go up and they're honest and like, I don't really understand that. Can you explain to me why this doesn't work this way? And then people love to be experts. Let them be. Let
Mm-hmm.
them be the
Mm-hmm.
let them be the person that
Mm-hmm.
again that shines in that moment. Not always you.
Yeah.
You don't always have to be the face of greatness. Let somebody else have it once in a while.
Yeah.
So.
This is about your book, of course, but I just want to share a little story out of my
Mhm.
life that, um, it worked. My ignorance worked for me, and asking for help worked. And the story is this: I joined the Navy. I didn't know jack shit about what that means. I was going to be a naval officer, and I didn't know. I just signed on the line and I went to officer candidate school. And so when I got to officer candidate school, our company commander says, "Tell us what you want to do. What leadership job do you want? Do you want to be a platoon leader? Do you want to be this or that in the company?" And I wrote very succinctly, "I don't want any leadership position. I'm just going to try to survive these 4 months." That's what I wrote. Like, no, I had no ambition because I was scared and I didn't
Mhm.
know the game.
Yeah.
And guess what the guy did? My company commander made me a platoon leader. So the platoon leader's job is to march the
Yes.
platoon everywhere for 4 months. I stand outside the little square and I march them. And I had no experience in marching anybody, let alone myself. So the very first day, I was my new platoon leader. I'm standing outside the little square of all my people. A lot of them had been in the Navy before, enlisted. Now we're officer candidates. And I just had to say, hey, y'all, um, I've never done this before. I would really, really appreciate your help because I'm going to get through this with you, but help me out here and help me do the best I can in this job they gave me. And by
Mhm.
the way, it ended up working.
So
They
there you
just they
go.
just totally understood that I needed help. I asked for help. I said I didn't know. If I would have pretended to know how to march 15 people, that it just would have totally blown up in my face. So it's okay to say I don't know.
Yeah.
You don't
It
know
gives you more credibility,
in a way.
don't you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah.
Don't you
By the
think?
way, when it was all said and done, I ended up getting like this leadership award
See?
at officer candidate school because I think people kind of voted for me because I wasn't this, walk in and know it all kind of guy.
Yeah, pretend to know it all. And
Yeah.
again, you think people don't talk about the fact that they know you don't know? They do.
Everybody
Everybody knows you
knows you
suck.
suck.
You cannot
Everybody.
hide it. You cannot hide it. So just be upfront and say, you know what, guys? Out of my depths. Help
Yes.
me out here. Help me out, and I'll do my best for you.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
somewhere down the line, they're going to need you,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And that's where you can be for them.
Yes.
But in the
Yes.
meantime, let's all be in this together. When it comes time, you'll help me, but right now, I mean, I'll help you, but right now, you help me.
That builds a strong team.
Yes, it's a
Really
team.
does.
It's a team.
Yeah.
So they, like I said, you always maintain the leadership role, but at the same time, you're with them, and they feel that. And if you can admit something, you can admit a weakness, you can show them a weakness. You know what it also does?
Sure.
It helps them show you, not to be afraid to show you.
Yes,
that
it's modeling.
They don't know something. Yeah.
It's modeling, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
they'll
Trish,
ask.
before we close today on this
Sure.
pillar of truth, in reading your book, I pulled out some phrases that you use in the book, and I'm certain I'm older than you because you look like you're about 30. But I called them old school language, and I want to just kind of run one by you,
Sure.
and then say, is there another way of saying it that younger people would understand what you're saying? But I actually think old school language sometimes is as good as it gets. So here, people not pulling their weight. That's old school language, you know.
Okay.
For a manager to say people aren't pulling their weight, but I think that says it very, very well. But a young person might not even understand what that means. So I love that you use some old school terms. I'm calling them old school, but they're very powerful. So tell me a little about it. Why did you put people not pulling their weight? Why'd you put that in your book?
Well, first of all, it's as you said, it's plain speak.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't go for jargon, and it's extremely understandable. I grew up overseas, so I probably was exposed to more old school because our books were older. Yes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, okay, what would you put in place of pulling your weight? You're not doing your job?
Well, yeah. And I was just thinking, what would a modern manager that's been trained to their own level of incompetence, what would they say? They'd go, you're not working up to your potential, so I really want to.
And that sounds terrible.
It doesn't. Yeah, it's kind of insulting.
Yes.
And there are ways, and that sometimes what I'm saying is
it sounds pretentious.
It does, and it doesn't help the person.
No.
You know, you're not working up to your potential. Anyway, so I'm gonna every chat we have, I'm gonna bring up one or two of those old school things, and we can talk a little bit about it because I appreciate it.
And just one thing, okay?
Sure.
I may have written that in the book, but that might not be something that I would say, because in a real situation, you'd call somebody in and say, we need to speak about this because of that.
I'm totally getting it. I don't want people to think that you went, this is what you say in this situation. You're not pulling your weight. No, you're just saying that as describing some coworkers that aren't working as hard as you.
Exactly.
So Trish Tagle, the book again is Everyone Knows You Suck, Bad Boss Stories, a succinct guide. Trish, thank you for your time today. Next time we're going to talk about the next pillar, which is teach. And I look forward to seeing you again. Any last words?
That's it. Get the book, Amazon.com.
Amazon.com.
And paperback.
Yeah, and I'm saying Trish Tagle, and it's spelled Tagle.
Yes.
So go get that book, and you will really enjoy it. And I'll tell you about what I think about this book as we move along.
Okay,
thanks,
great.
Trish.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you again for joining me for the Defined Engagement BookCast. Next time we'll be